Hello everyone, welcome back to the new video. So in this video we will get the data of our blocks from that JSON file and will show that data into our blocks list screen. So we have this data of blocks. Here we are keeping the blocks object in a list. Here we need to get these JSON object into our Kotlin objects. So this job will be done by the Kotlin serialization library. We already have added the dependency. So what we need? So we just need to specify the Kotlin data class. We need to convert this JSON object. And if we go to our domain package and here we have this model and this block data class. So one option we can use this block data class and provide to the Kotlin serialization and say that we need to convert that JSON object into this data class. But here few things we need to modify like using some annotations. And here also we are keeping the content in our block data class, but in our JSON data object here we don't have any content data, and also the key name of these field is different in this blocks data class. So here the best approach is to create a separate class that's only job is to reflect the data we are getting through the network. So in our Android blocks package create one more package with the name data, and here one package with the name remote, and in this remote package we will keep all the things related to the data we are getting through the network. So here first thing we will create a package with the name DTO. This DTO stands for data transfer object. So here we are going to create the block DTO, and we are using this DTO name because it's a naming convention where we specify that this object is solely for the purpose of reflecting the data we are getting through the network. First thing we will get the ID that will be of type int, and next thing title, this will be of type string, and thumbnail URL and content URL. So here what Kotlin serialization needs to convert that JSON object into a Kotlin object, just an annotation with the name serializable. We can see this is coming from the Kotlin serialization, and rest of the work will be done by the Kotlin serialization library in converting that JSON object to this Kotlin data object. And we are getting few warnings. If I hover the mouse on this thumbnail URL, and it is suggesting us that we should not use underscore for defining the property name. But this property name we have defined because this is the name we are using in our JSON object. So here the solution is simply we can use one more annotation from this Kotlin serialization library with the name serial name, and we will say we have this property name with this name, but we are going to use camel case naming convention. Here we have got both the things. We have defined how our JSON object name is, and also we have keep our property name in the camel case. Same let's do with this content URL. Next thing we will define a function which will help us in getting the data. So in our remote package, let's define one dedicated class for all the network related code with the name Ktor remote block data source. So here let's use a suspend function and use this get all blocks, and this function will return us this list of blocks, and this will be a nullable list. So how we are getting these blocks? For that we are going to use the Ktor client library, and to make the request we need the HTTP client object, and we will pass that object through the constructor of this class, this one from the Ktor client. and let's use the return keyword with try catch block. And if we get any exception, first thing we are going to do is print that exception, and here we will just return the null value. And to get the data, we simply can use this HTTP client. On this HTTP client, we get so many function, and we need to use this get function. And this get function needs the URL from it needs to get the data. For now, just use the blank parenthesis, and let's get the response in this value, and we need the body of that response, and the body will be of type list of blocks DTO. It needs to be block DTO, this function also. So this is all the code for this function. We just need to specify this URL. So let's get the URL first. And here is for JSON, go to this raw button, and this is the URL we need to use. Copy it and keep this URL in a constant file. So in our data package, create one more file with the name constant and use a constant val and name it GitHub URL. So this constant will hold the GitHub URL string, and let's use this constant in our file and import this. And here we have the function that will help us in getting the data of those blocks. Next thing, we need to customize this HTTP client. So here let's create one object with the name HTTP client factory. And in this object, let's create one function with the name create. So this function will create the object of that HTTP client, and we will pass the engine of this HTTP client. We need to pass this engine because this Ktor client library is compatible with the Kotlin multiplatform also. So in the Kotlin multiplatform, we have different platforms. So there we need to pass the different engines on different platforms. So that's why we need to pass this engine. And this function will give us the object of this HTTP client. So what are the things we need to customize? First thing, we need to say that we need to install content negotiation. With this content negotiation, we are saying that what type of content it needs to get. So we will say that it needs to get the JSON data. And in this JSON data, one more thing we need to customize is ignore unknown keys with this true. What this ignore unknown key will do? Suppose if you have one more field with another name, something like count, whatever field we have defined in our block DTO, so this will consider only those fields and it will ignore all the unknown keys. Next thing, we need to install HTTP timeout. And here we need to define the socket timeout millis, and let's use 20 seconds. And next thing, this request timeout millis, again 20 seconds. So with this HTTP timeout, we are preventing our app from waiting indefinitely for a response from the server. So if the 20 seconds pass, then it will no longer wait for the response. And in that case, we will use the local database to show the blocks data. And next thing, let's use this install function with this logging. And we also need to log all the details related to this Ktor request. And we need the label.all, and logger we can simply use Android. And one more thing, let's define is the default request. So here we need to define this content type dot application dot JSON. So these are the things we need to customize. Let's minimize the imports. Hey everyone, if you are finding this tutorial helpful, You will love my premium Udemy course where we will build 𝒉𝒂𝒄𝒌𝒐𝒖�, a fitness app using Jetpack Compose. We go in depth on the Firebase authentication, Firestore, and more. Check out the course in the description and take your skills to the next level. See you there. Now we can use that function. So we have in our presentation package this block list and we have block list screen. And we are not going to use that function directly into our block list screen composable function. For that we have one dedicated class. First let's create that, then I will explain you. And the name will be the block list view model and define the type. This will be of view model from this Android X lifecycle. So this view model is a special class in Android designed to survive configuration changes like screen rotation, dark mode switch, or when the system recreates the activity due to memory constraint. If we manage the UI related data like states inside this activity, it gets lost when the activity is recreated. So view model helps by storing and managing UI state and user section independently of the activity lifecycle, ensuring data persistence across configuration changes. And here first thing we will keep our states. For that we are going to create two values, one for the private with the help of this mutable state flow, and by default let's use our block list state data class with default values, one public value. Here we will just simply convert this mutable state flows into simple state with the help of this state in function. So here we need to define first thing scope, and we will say these states should live as long as we have this view model. So we are going to use this view model scope and they need to start sharing while we are subscribed to this view model even after 5 seconds, and initially we will keep our default values. So this private one is for reading and writing inside this view model, and this public one is for just reading outside this view model class. So in this way we will make sure that our state will not change outside this view model class. And we are going to use a private function get all blocks, and we need to call this function as soon as we are creating our states. So let's use on start and call our get all blocks function. So here how we are going to get the blocks, we will use the view model scope dot launch, and first we need the object of that class. So let's create this private val remote data source, and let's create the Ktor remote data source, this class. But this class needs the HTTP client object, and we can simply create one more object here with the help of this HTTP client factory and dot create, and this needs the engine. So let's use just OK HTTP dot create and provide this HTTP client through this. Now we can call that function remote data source dot get all blocks and save these blocks inside this value and update our state with this update function. So let's take a copy of whole state data class and we need to update our blocks, and we got one error. And if we hover the mouse we can see we are getting the list of block details, and in our state we are keeping this block data class. So what we need is, first let me close all the other files, and I have two data class for blocks. First one this block DTO and next this block. So this block class we are using in our presentation layer. And we have one more dedicated class that is especially created to get the data related to blocks over the internet. So what we need is simply a function that will convert our block DTO into a block. So let me close both these files, and in our data package, let's create one more package with the name mapper and create one block DTO mapper. So these functions are simply called mapper functions and they are quite simple. Create one function with an on this block DTO class with the name toBlock, and this function will return us this block, and we just need to map these values to their similar value. And for the content we can simply use null value. So here we have one function that will convert a block DTO class into a block data class. But here one thing is we can use map function first and then we can map each object with the help of this toBlock function. But what we can do, we can simplify this thing by creating one more mapper function on the list of block DTOs, toBlock list, and this will simply map each values of this list with the help of this toBlock function, and this function will work on the list itself, and we don't need to use all this, simply use this toBlock list. And we are getting the error because of that null check, so let's surround this state with a null check. So if we don't have the null value, then we are going to update our blocks DTO. And let's use our view model in our main activity to pass this state to our list screen. And here we are simply passing the state with this dummy list. So let's just delete it, and here what we need first is the view model. So view model we can create using this view model. So this view model I have used this import to create this view model. Now next thing, let's get those states from that view model. So here we have a function with the name collect as state with lifecycle, and it will collect all those states, and we are going to provide this state here. Now let's run our app and see how this is working. And here we have app, and as expected we have got empty list. And if we go to the logcat, and we will get some errors. So let's check those errors. So here it has making a request on this URL, and we are getting the response like this. We can see we are getting all the response in our body. So what exception we got? Here it is suggesting us that we are getting the content type as a plain text and we are only accepting the JSON data. This is happening because we are getting the raw data from the GitHub URL. But generally what happens, we have some dedicated servers of our Android app, then we send the data as the JSON. So we can fix this thing. So let's go to our remote package and this HTTP client factory, because here we are customizing things. And first thing, we need to make this default request to any, so we will get any type of data. And one more thing, here in this JSON block, let's define the content type, because by default when you press Ctrl P, you will see that it has set the value as the JSON content type. So again we can modify this thing to content type dot application dot any. So now our Ktor will get the data of any type and we can just run our app again. And again we are getting the empty list. So let me again go to the logcat and let's see what happens this time. So here the issue is, let me scroll down and we can see here we are getting the response status 200. It means okay. And header we are getting as the text plain and we are accepting any type. So we just need to modify further. Go to our HTTP client factory and instead of using this any, we need to specify the specific text dot plain. And I think this is all the thing. And now run our app. And here it has fetched the data and we have nice looking block card. And if I rotate this phone device, we are going to see nice looking two cards in a row. So this is all for this video. We have successfully fetched all those JSON data and we are showing that to our blocks list screen and we are also getting those images. In the next video, we will learn more about how we can keep our code as maintainable as our app grows. And also we will learn about how we can pass objects to different class at one central place with the help of Coin library. As always, if you have any questions or suggestion, feel free to drop them down in the comment section. And if you found the videos helpful, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.